Hey, here we are! Like I said, it's a beautiful Thursday on mid-October, even though it feels like summer, 71 degrees and sunny. And here's my guest this afternoon, the amazing, the humble, and the guy with the great future, Teddy Marantz. Teddy, how are you this evening?
I am great. How are you doing, Matt Brown?
I'm really thrilled to have you here, man. That's the honest truth.
I must say, it is beautiful out today. We should be doing this outside.
Oh, man. Once I figure out how to do these outside podcasts with the wind, that's definitely going to be a thing. But what's up, though, bro? How are you doing? Just the things. Me and Teddy, the way we met. We met from Theta Chi, just like the Brad Finn in our episode. So he's a former fraternity brother, or I guess always fraternity brother. I met Teddy. Actually, met Teddy first during So Teddy, I was working. I mentioned before I worked as a tour guide at the University of Hartford. And I met Teddy. I guess Teddy was interviewing for the job at the time, and we were training together. And I never saw him again. Working the Red Keys was what they call it. But coincidentally, he pledged my fraternity with the great Jacob Unger, I should say. I hope you're doing well, bro. And yeah, now we're here. We've stayed in touch ever since.
Yeah,
and
of course.
I definitely appreciate our friendship a lot, and you're a Stanford guy, so nice and local from here in the studio.
You know it, man. And it's funny you bring up, the Red Key, the tour guide stuff. It wasn't for me, man. It wasn't for me. I remember I don't remember if it was like just a training thing. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I remember doing a tour, leading a tour as like training. And it was all going pretty well. And then, we get to C-Comp or whichever complex, with the training,
Yeah.
with the makeshift, so that the parents and the kids can see exactly what the dorms look like.
Mm-hmm.
And someone brings up the safety of the campus. And I, provided them with whatever facts I had, which were and I said I always feel safe on campus. And they came at me with some weird statistic and facts from like a website that I'd never heard of, probably who knows where they got it, and it was all about the campus being unsafe. You have the most reported blank, I don't even remember, and I didn't know what to do. I was like, dude, I could tell you that I always feel safe on this campus, and
Yeah.
so I'm talking to him, and that was the end for me. That was like, this isn't for me. I was a freshman. I was like, I'm gonna get out of this while I have the chance.
Take tour guide at UHart specifically. We had some weird things. I did like the people we worked with a lot. You remember our boss Christy?
I do.
Christy, I think. Oh my God, she was so sweet. She was one of my favorite bosses ever. I think she just got married, so shouts to her. And then we had, a joke I used to say as a tour guide. It would depend. I'd read the crowd if they would think it's funny or not.
Right.
I would say, oh, this is the freshman dorms. This is where you learn to be a man for the first time. This is where you learn some independence, being on your own. A lot of virginities were lost in these dorms, so everything's happening with everyone. And another crazy tour, I remember it was a Saturday tour. Bring the people out, and we go to Hawk Hall, the infamous Hawk Hall,
of course,
hotel. Everyone knows. At the University of Hartford, they have this just beautiful modern dorm. And I bring the tour up. This is Saturday morning in a college, and it was I guess people were still feeling it. And I open we go up and we just see these two people, hardcore PDA, is making out, like slobbering each other, and I'm like, oh, I guess maybe that was their goodbye before her walk of shame. Or his walk of shame, wherever they were going, or his, it was hella awkward.
It sounds and being a tour guide at any school is tough because parents, especially when they're sending their first kids to school, but parents sending their kids to schools are crazy.
Oh,
they're crazy.
There's no question
About everything. They examine. They'll break down anything they could break down. They'll examine it. They'll find the bad in it. They'll find the good in it, they'll find, but they're crazy.
dude, I can't keep up. I really can't. I just love the money, and I did it to. I wanted to be an NBC page, and they give tours around 30 Rock. So that's the sole reason why I took the job. And maybe one day that dream could still come true. I guess I'm older for that now, but I'm still open to do it. But yeah,
Absolutely.
I did learn how to speak in front of crowds, and literally no crowd can ever scare me.
If you ever heard from it was my junior year. You were gone.
Here we go.
Did you heard about the stabbing? The stabbing.
Oh yeah, that's right.
You heard about the stabbing
in the twos, right?
Yeah, I think it was in the twos. A crazy day.
So
rainy. It was like the scene was set for it. It was a rainy, cloudy, dark day. I'm trying to get onto campus. It happened, I guess, either right before or I don't know. But I was trying to get onto campus. I had an interview on campus, and they don't let me on campus. Everything's locked down. I'm waiting in this line of cars outside of campus for at least an hour and a half or two.
Really?
Crazy, brutal. I couldn't get out of it because I was still, I had my suit on. I was ready for this interview. It was in GSU. So what they did, and there was tours that day.
Union. Yeah.
There was
GSU
tours that day. So they took all these tours and they locked them down in GSU. Imagine picking the University of Hartford after that. And that, hey, it's not that it's necessarily on the university, but that's a crazy, imagine you're going for your college tour and you get locked down in the student union building because there's a stabber on campus, a stabber loose, running around, they can't find him. Now
that's just bad luck. That is a deal breaker, I think. I would love to, what specific tour? Who actually enrolled?
Imagine being the tour guide for that. Imagine being the tour guide who's like, folks, we're going to have to, go back where, your commons or wherever you are. We're going to have to go back to the student union building. There's an active stabbing on campus. There's a stabber loose. And we're going to have to lock down there. Imagine being, that's a hard job, man. You never know with being a tour guide for any university between the crazy parents, nutty questions that you never could be prepared for some of the questions you might get from these parents. And then stuff, you never know what's going to happen on a college campus.
Oh, man. never, bro. But speaking of that, so you just graduated from the University of Hartford, class of 2020. Now you're infamous 2020, so we know what happened. So could you tell me your experience as a second semester senior going into the quarantine?
It's funny. The first, when this all started going down, I was a little excited because I didn't think it was that serious. It wasn't being perceived as something that serious. I was expecting to go on a trip I was supposed to go to Toronto with a couple of brothers.
That was your spring break?
That was my spring break. We were going up to Canada. Had an Airbnb all planned out. We were ready for a good time. I canceled that. I was a little excited because I was like, second semester senior. I live at the house up here, so like I'm not gonna lose that. And classes online sounded very appealing to me.
Right.
Of course, I didn't anticipate what actually came of it, which was I lost the rest of my second semester of senior year. That's not that sucked. That sucked for a while. I was like, damn, I didn't get to do formal, spring fling, spring break, all that stuff. Brutal, man. And to all the seniors, high school, college, 2020 was just a brutal way to end any school experience of your life.
That really is unfair. And how did you graduate? What was your graduation like?
Haven't had one yet.
You still haven't had one? Did they say they're planning one? Or?
It was originally postponed to this winter, to December. And then just a couple weeks ago they emailed us and were like, postponed until further notice because we don't know what's going on with this virus.
Mm-hmm.
And when we first were sent home last semester, it was very... They hinted at it. They said, take your stuff, take the important stuff, whatever is important to you, and take your school stuff because you might be doing. First, they hinted that we might have a couple extra weeks of break where we're going to be doing classes online. And then, obviously, from there, we know what happened, and that was canceled.
Do you remember your very last day on campus, like what you did, or did you say these solemn goodbyes? Did you have a movie moment?
I can't say I did because, again, we were all expecting to be back. The general people were like, oh, yeah, we might have a week or two of extra time home, doing classes, online. But I don't think anybody expected to be completely, done for the year. I feel like I feel like this whole COVID thing. I could have my timeline wrong, but for some reason I feel like the COVID thing and Kobe Bryant's death they kind of kicked off close together. I remember very shortly after.
Yeah, that happened the last weekend of January. The death of Kobe. I can remember. That was tough. If you want to share your experience with that, I can remember how me. If you want to go first on that, or
oh, absolutely. So I remember Kobe's death. I'll always remember it. That's one of the. And
where you were for our generation when you found out about Kobe?
I was on campus at an apartment. There was a lot of there was at least 7, 8, maybe 10 of the brothers there.
Mm-hmm.
Coincidentally, just hanging out.
All at once.
All at once, just coincidentally, man. Watching I forget exactly what we were watching. It was a basketball game. We were watching sports, and yeah, I mean, one of us saw it on Twitter, and then the next saw it on Twitter, and the next got a notification. TMZ started reporting on it,
mm-hmm.
and I didn't believe it. I think nobody wanted to believe it, and we all kind of were looking at our Twitters, and we saw TMZ. We saw people saying it, but we didn't see Waj. Shams. We didn't see any of the people who we rely on. For
when they reported it's for real.
Exactly. So we were holding out hope, and obviously quickly that we lost. There was no hope.
There, if the NBA right next to LeBron.
Where is it?
You can see it on that poster right there in the 50.
Am I crazy?
So Steve, take a left. You see Aaron Judge and LeBron next to them. You're looking the wrong way. You see the NFL quarterbacks right up there, 50.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
So, yeah, I remember my experience about Kobe's death was same here. My parents were on one of their casino trips. Share with my brothers, me and Brendan. We get ready for the Pro Bowl. Remember that day? We were going to do it was the weekend between the Super Bowl and the championship weekend.
Okay.
So, I remember my youngest brother screaming in terror. He's like, "Yo, Kobe died," and I'm like, "What?" So I look at this screenshot. I'm like, "Fuck," and then I immediately FaceTime my buddy Sam Anchari, who you know really well.
Of course.
And he knew what I was FaceTiming for. He's like, "Bro, I can't." And that was a very tough day, very, very hard, and definitely miss him and the other 7 people who sadly
Of course.
There's other 7 people sadly perished, and obviously his daughter Gianna.
Right.
And tough, and hopefully we'll see some new regulation changes from that. And man, but hey,
and it's crazy. People really looked up to Kobe.
Yeah.
I personally never felt like I looked up to him, but I respected what he did for the sport, and so I of course was sad, as everyone pretty much was. But people really looked up to Kobe.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So those people, of course,
it's
hard to lose someone who you looked up to.
There was one kid, this dude Alex Ranello, Alexander, California. I never see someone so affected by celebrities' death. He was depressed. Yo, man, we gotta check up on you.
Yeah.
And my thing with Kobe, him and really growing up early, caught the tail end of Shaq and Kobe.
Yeah.
I can vividly remember.
Right.
Those are my first favorite basketball players since the Knicks. I've always been a Knicks fan, but the only Knicks player I've ever looked up to was Stephon Marbury, and he didn't come to the Knicks till I was in 4th grade. But really early on, we had Shaq and Kobe, and those were the guys. And
right.
I played NBA Live,
of course,
on the Nintendo 64, 2000. And that's the team I would pick.
Right.
because again, no Knicks. Latrell Sprewell, Marcus Camby wasn't appealing enough, and then I went to my first Knicks. I went to my first Knicks game in 2004. I saw him in February. It was Knicks Pistons. The year the Pistons won the finals against Shaq and Kobe to end their reign.
Yeah.
So I saw that Pistons team with the Chauncey Billups, Ben Wallace, Rasheed Wallace, Tayshaun Prince. The Knicks starting lineup, I think, was Kurt Thomas and Tim Thomas, Stephon Marbury, Jamal Crawford, and I can't think of the other starter. But that was fun, and I saw the Knicks. They were in the playoffs that year. Got swept by the Nets.
I was into the Knicks back then, man. I wasn't. It took me.
How
Basketball
can
was
you
the
be?
last major sport I really got into. I would say the first Knicks player that I that I fell in love with was Amari Stoudemire. Probably.
Oh yeah.
I was a big Stoudemire fan. That was when I was early. That was my early NBA fan days.
And you appreciate it because he chose to come here. One of your agents that
Ballsy
did.
move.
Yeah. And it got us a second round. But when the Knicks are good again, whenever that day is, it really does seem impossible.
Yeah.
This area is gonna go off. So many new Knicks fans.
Yep.
That's one of my flaws. People go on me that I'm a genuine Knicks fan. I get roasts all the time.
Yeah.
But hey, I just know, and I say all the time, just know when they're good again, that I have always been that way.
I'm so tired as a Knicks fan of the media shoving these rumors that get me excited
that Giannis
down my
is coming
throat.
in.
Giannis, we had
KD was
KD and
supposed to
Kyrie. We have now are they going to trade up? They're not trading up. And we have all these rumors every year shoved down our throats that they're going to make a change, and nothing. It's not going to happen. Nobody wants to come here anymore, man. And there's no appeal in being in New York City anymore, at least for that particular.
It's tragic. I think so many people, especially the media here, are dying for the Knicks to be good, and the NBA really wants the Knicks to be good. So they haven't been in the playoffs since 2012 to 2013. That's going to be 7 seasons now, and
that was barely they got swept, right?
No, they played the Celtics, and they won in 6 games, but even almost lost in Game 6. Then they played the Pacers in 5. Roy Hibbert was the guy who stopped this. They had Lance Stevenson, early Paul George. That Knicks team, Melo, Amari, Tyson Chandler. You had Jason Kidd play.
Yeah.
Coached by Mike Woodson, who's coming back. And that was a good time. People were hyped. I would have buddies over here to watch, and it was just really great vibes, only for us to lose.
I mean, New York sports, the state of New York sports right now is not in complete disarray, but it is we are in a bad spot in New York sports. The Yankees are the Yankees, nothing to complain about if you're a Yankee fan.
I know.
Maybe at the moment, that could be a little, at the moment you might, but in general, you don't have too much to complain about as a Yankee fan. The Nets, that's a more recent team to come into the New York area. Not area, of course, they were in Jersey, but into New York, that's one of the more recent teams. And you've got, other than those two, the Islanders, New York sports is rough right now.
Yes, as you said, Nets really do have potential now with KD and Kyrie,
Right.
but who knows? Achilles injuries are hard to have the strength.
Yeah.
But, they have other cool players. Karis LeVert's fun to watch. Spencer Dinwiddie.
Yeah.
Jared Cook. They have Steve Nash coaching now, who Kyrie actually called him, he's more collaborative after. But we'll see, I'm sure.
Right.
I don't know.
It's more football.
Yeah, right.
Brutal. Football is brutal.
That's the Knicks joke, 8th round pick. We have Tom Thibodeau now, respected coach. Well, I'll be happy if it'd be nice to get an 8th spot, but if we could just be competitive, see where we get. A lot of great players have been later first round picks. Kawhi was 13th. I think Giannis was 16th, 17th, 18th, around that.
Right.
So who knows? The only Knicks players to look forward to is Mitch Robinson, has some potential. R.J. Barrett, I guess the jury's still out on him.
Right.
But, everyone else Kevin Knox plus. We have
Even the young crowd on that team, there's a lot of ifs. There's a lot. None of those players. There's not a single player on the Knicks other than like Julius Randle.
Julius Randle, not the old one. We have between that and I don't even want to remember this guy's name. Taj Gibson played a good amount of games, but he's not the same.
Randle's a great player to have when you're just looking for that extra piece.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not carrying on.
Alonzo Trier had potential, then the Knicks traded him. Dennis Smith Jr. People thought, hey, maybe he could be an asset. Nope.
Right.
Frank Ntilikina's a joke. I mean, we could have drafted Bam Adebayo, but we picked Frank Ntilikina for him, thanks to Phil Jackson. But yeah, New York basketball. One has great potential. One is a joke. As you mentioned, Yankees. I don't know. I know. Yes, we just need to make moves. Obviously, it's tough to have 2 straight season-ending home runs by the same pitcher. But the Mets really do have potential. You're excited, Teddy, you're a Mets fan. You got a new owner coming in.
It's a long time coming with the new ownership. Long time coming.
Then, as you mentioned, Islanders made the conference finals. Knicks rebuilt. I mean, the Rangers are rebuilding. He did get a first-round pick, the number 1 overall pick, and
But then look at.
Let's get to the football. New York City football.
That is the
That's what we've been building up to this part of our combo. So yes, I'm a Giants fan. You're a Jets fan, and both our teams, as we record this, are 0-5. It seems the way it goes that Giants are playing competitive games but figure out a way to lose. And then the Jets just keep getting blown out. We're on the eve, as this recorded, we're 2 days away from Le'Veon Bell getting dropped, straight up released. And Teddy, what did we do? Someone really cursed us. I mean, what are your thoughts initially when you think of New York football?
I'm nauseous thinking about them. I'm nauseous. Because they're so bad. First of all, watching the Jets is so brutal. Every week you wonder, what are they going to do? There's always a point in the game where you're like, oh my goodness, what has this become? They're not competitive. They just are brutal to watch. There's every set of downs that they're given, there's something that you say, oh my goodness, I could have done that better. I could have called that better. Whether it's a 2nd and 10 draw play up the middle, or a 2nd and long in general, draw play up the middle, a wide receiver screen on 3rd and 13, it's always something. Whether it's Frank Gore.
Frank Gore, that's your number 1 on the depth chart for some reason.
Whether it's him, you watch him getting the bulk of the carries, and now Le'Veon's gone. P. Ryan, I think a talented, rookie, not getting any carries, and you're like, what is going on? It's a state of it's like chaos. It's the football version of chaos on the field. They haven't been competitive in a single game other than the Broncos game, and that was against a third string. Right, that was against a bench. That was against the bench. And even that they couldn't win. If they couldn't win that Broncos game, there's not a single winnable game on the schedule. And I would have said one of the Dolphins games maybe, but they just dismantled the 49ers. They're a good team.
Thoughts initially when you think of New York football?
I'm nauseous thinking about them. I'm nauseous because they're so bad. First of all, watching the Jets is so brutal. Every week you wonder, what are they going to do? There's always a point in the game where you're like, oh my goodness, what has this become? They're not competitive. They just are brutal to watch. There's every set of downs that they're given, there's something that you say, oh my goodness, I could have done that better. I could have called that better. Whether it's a 2nd and 10 draw play up the middle, or a 2nd and long in general, draw play up the middle, a wide receiver screen on 3rd and 13, it's always something. whether it's Frank Gore.
Frank Gore,
Frank
man.
Gore.
That's your number one on the depth chart for some reason.
Whether it's him, I mean, he gets. You watch him getting the bulk of the carries, and now Le'Veon's gone. P. Ryan, I think a talented, rookie, not getting any carries, and you're like, what is going on? It's a state of it's like chaos. It's the football version of chaos on the field. They haven't been competitive in a single game other than the Broncos game, and that was against a third string. Right, that was against a bench. That was against the bench. And even that they couldn't win. If they couldn't win that Broncos game, there's not a single winnable game on the schedule. And I would have said one of the Dolphins games maybe, but they just dismantled the 49ers. They're a good team. They're not bad.
They have some momentum going against New England this week. Imagine they get another division win.
Is that...
because of the switch.
I think Miami got switched to the Jets.
Oh, that's what my bad.
No, it's a schedule change, yeah.
Exactly. It's hard to keep up with these schedule changes.
Denver's got New England, actually.
That's who they had a switch. And, Miami is playing the Jets this week.
Right.
Yeah, Teddy, when you watch your team, the Jets, who is a legitimate player? You mentioned some. I think Quinton Williamson looks like he might have potential, but is that really it? Jamison Crowder is averaging around 100 yards a game. But that's it.
Crowder's a good player, but you're gonna have to add a lot more than that on the.
What
legitimate player-wise, I would say it's still a little early to say, but Becton looks like a really good player.
Yeah.
Man, Sam really is a legitimate player. I'm telling you right now, they're gonna get rid of him. Understandably so, because if you're gonna go get a new head coach, which is inevitable, you have a GM who didn't pick him. They're gonna have. Very possibly be in the situation to get Trevor Lawrence, who is a generational talent.
It looks like it. They're comparing him to Peyton Manning out of college, John Elway, Andrew Luck. But we know what happened with Luck, but they're comparing him to two Hall of Famers that are coming out.
If they're gonna trade Sam, I could see him going to a few different teams, and I could see Sam being really good. If they put him, if the right team trades for him, if I was the Bears, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
If I was the 49ers, with the way Jimmy G has, I would do it in a heartbeat.
He got benched this week.
Mm-hmm.
In fantasy, I saw you were a casualty of his benching.
Yeah.
What do they want to say? Oh, it's really we're watching his injury or not? He got straight up benched.
He's just not that good.
Maybe the Washington football team can use Sam.
Also, and Ron Rivera's a good coach, man. You cannot underestimate the future of the Washington football team under Ron Rivera, as long as he can maintain order, and since that franchise has been very chaotic in the past year or so. But if he can maintain order in the locker room, that's a team that could be on the up and up. But Sam,
McKissick looks good. He could do something.
Exactly. There's some questions, I guess, about what you do with the quarterback over there with Dwayne Haskins. But again, that's what we're talking about Sam, though. That's what we're talking about Sam. Sam, if the right team trades for him, he will go on to have a very good career. That's my opinion. People feel otherwise. People think he's not a very good player.
Mm-hmm.
He certainly has had his fair share of mistakes that were on him, not anyone else, especially this year. Going into this year, I thought he might clean it up. I understand it's tough with what he... I hope they didn't ruin him, I hope that he can move on, go elsewhere, and I really do think that if he goes to a place like Chicago, watch out NFC North.
And don't forget, he made the mistake of somehow getting mono from someone, and he lost all that time. That development goes a long way in the league.
Yeah.
Dude, Teddy, my team could be competing for that. Trevor Lawrence,
very true.
Too. And that's the annoying thing is yes, Giants are not playing good, but they're not god awful like some are saying. At this point, we should have won Dallas this week after just stupid penalties taken away, a perfectly executed fake field goal touchdown. Got that screwed up.
Right.
Obviously, the one game that's panning out, the 49ers, they look bad. They held their own against the Steelers first week of the season, but Steelers are probably definitely there's a good chance they could win the AFC all
Right.
in all. Then
The Giants have a little more of an excuse too, dude. And
new coach.
Yeah, new coach,
All new
new
personnel.
system for a young quarterback.
Yeah,
a little more of an excuse.
The Daniel Jones jury is out still. I mean, if he just stopped turnovering the ball, the team would be so much different. And Jason Garrett looks like he is a good offensive coordinator right now. He's really fit in that mold and making plays. And we did lose Saquon, but Devontae Freeman, he started to get some yards. I guess he's getting more carries. He's definitely better than Gallman and Deion Lewis. So why not?
So what happens? What happens if Jason Garrett, draws head coach attention elsewhere, and someone scoops him up at the end of the season? Then what? Because now, is Joe Judge adopting that system? He's a special teams guy. He's not an offensive guy.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Garrett. I'm assuming it's Garrett's system, and so what happens with?
And I think Garrett is doing more of the play calling too.
I imagine, especially if it's his system. So what happens if he decides to? So then, are you going to give Daniel Jones his third, another new offensive system? That's the flaw in hiring Garrett. Is if he's there for the long haul, it's a great hire as an offensive coordinator. If he up and leaves, if he says, "All right, I did my thing here. I'm going to go get another head coaching job," then you're in a little trouble. Then you might have to really think about getting rid of Daniel Jones, even if it's premature, because you can't. There's no way. There's no way you can put this kid in another system, another new system.
Let's be real. Jason Garrett is a good NFL head coach. He's
Right.
proven he can win. He wins divisions. He wins games.
Right.
He just can't win in the playoffs for whatever reason. I mean, it's tough. He ran into Aaron Rodgers going in. That's some tough losses against the Packers. A bunch of others. I'd be bummed to see him go, but I don't know. Daniel Jones, what is it? That's what's just so aggravating with these tough laws is because Daniel Jones, he can move the ball. It's fairly accurate, fairly. Most of his turnovers are more fumbles than actual interceptions.
Right.
That's where it happens. And he seems to have a good repertoire with Darius Slayton. I think that's it. I think Golden Tate's been a wasted pick trying to justify losing Odell. And then you just see this guy getting body slammed with Jalen Ramsey. So I think Daniel Jones and Darius Slayton could be a good combo. And obviously with Evan Ingram, it seems like he feels like to be in that great. When he's on his game, he's one of the best tight ends in the game. But he's essentially another receiver. But when he's not, he's really bad.
Yeah, he needs to be on his game more often. But really, the offensive line is.
Yeah, they have 4 new starting offensive linemen. 4 completely new ones. And we kept Willie Hernandez, it's a really good guard. And yet, they just still, no matter who you are in this world, you could be Joe Montana, you could be Tom Brady in his prime.
You need protection.
Yeah, it's never going to work. And it seems like that's the case. I mean, Saquon's injury, he just got annihilated those first 2 games, and then when he played against the Bears, tore his ACL, and who knows what if
And
a little better protection.
There was a lot of talk about the turf, and I'm sure that's a legitimate issue.
With
but
the MetLife turf, another thing with that horrible
But that
stadium.
torn ACL, when you see it, when it had nothing to do with the turf, man. That was just, he got hit right in the knee.
Yeah.
I forget exactly, I don't think it was, of course it wasn't on purpose, but I think someone was falling into him maybe, and
yeah, he got hit on the sideline from the Bears,
Brutal.
the very good defensive back. I just can't think of the guy's name. It's not Kendall Fuller. Maybe it is. I don't know.
I don't remember now.
Well, yeah, he did a clean tackle out of bounds, and then the ACL injuries, man. They always throughout his. It's easy. You're finding more players being able to come back from it.
Yeah. Modern medicine.
Yeah.
Modern physical therapy and
AP came back, seemed better than ever. He's the only one I could think of in the top of my head who
still playing.
Came back from an ACL injury. He still had a few more dominant seasons.
Yes. He was a special player, and it'll be interesting. Any of these brutal leg injuries, Dak right last week, that was ugly.
Yeah, we know it. Yeah, he compound fracture of his ankle, completely fell off the
His
bone.
foot was just hanging there.
Yeah.
Right on, and you could always see, whenever those when the injuries are really brutal, you see it. You see it on the field, live. You don't have to see the replay.
Yeah, that's the thing. They have it.
The replay even happened. I'm watching that. As soon as I saw that hit, I'm like, oh my goodness.
But that Alex Smith, Joe Theismann, the tough ones, man.
Yeah.
And I mean, what's cool to see that Alex Smith was able to come back and do some snaps. But yeah, those. I mean, I dislocated my kneecap playing football for an RKI. My brother broke his foot.
Yeah.
My other brother broke his wrist. Football's dangerous, but we love it, man. That's what's crazy. They still want. I just want to come back.
Yeah, that's a big debate. Is asking people ask if they'll let their kids play football. People now really contemplate that because of. I think it's more because of the brain injuries than the foot injuries and the stuff like that. But people ask. That's a legitimate question now. People ask themselves: is will I let my kid play football if they want to play football?
I know you miles away from being a dad.
Of course.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe you want a dad. I met dumb people who want kids right now that are our age. But what about you, Teddy? Would you let your kid play football if he wants to? Of course they would.
I want to say yes right now because I don't actually have to worry about that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, either way, I think I probably would. I'm sure that by the time you and me are having, our own kids one day, the game will have evolved. The equipment will have evolved. We'll have new, they're studying that stuff now, man. The scientists who are studying CCE and these brain injuries in relation to football and how we can.
Don't forget other sports like hockey's big, any contact sport.
Yeah. So we'll see. I really hope that by then we have advances to the point where, we don't have to worry about that for our kids.
Easily. Can't agree more with this. So, at the end with our teams, you hope to have Trevor. Do you personally hope to have Trevor Lawrence? Obviously, and Gase to be out of here.
Right. That's where it gets interesting. Of course, I want Trevor Lawrence, but I want to know that my head coach, and offensive coordinator and quarterback, because it's probably going to be a whole new staff. I need to know that all those people are going to be able to develop him, because we were given Gase. We see what happened to poor Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold has gotten the raw end of that stick, worse than anybody else.
Think of a quarterback, because he wasn't as touted as Trevor Lawrence, but people thought he could compete.
He has the talent, man. He has the talent from watching him every day, since he's pretty much every game since he's been, in the league, pretty much every game he's ever played, in the league, he has the talent, and to see him get kind of, pretty much ruined, hopefully not permanently, by the Jets and that coaching staff, I guess, Gase. Brutal.
All right, switch to the last big sport with baseball now. So we have, again, both things on the spectrum. I'm a Yankees fan. You're a Mets fan. My Yankees seem to make the playoffs and have, in this era of the close but no cigar, this is the Yankees, this brutal playoff losses.
Yeah.
You're a Mets team that is competitive, but again, the tail end of the Wilpon era with tough managerial selections.
Brutal.
Good Brody Van Wagenen with brilliant trades, as we've seen. And, they are right there. They could have made the playoffs in this expanded playoff system if they won out, they would have made that last seed, right?
And the fact they were even in the position to have to win out in that situation, it was brutal. Mm-hmm. A lot of things went in, a lot of, maybe not coincidences, but just in general, a lot of outside things went into a lot of the issues they had this year. I was never a fan of Luis Rojas, as you know.
After your boy Beltran gets outed, he gets hired, then gets outed. The Mets didn't have to fire him.
I mean, I wanted Girardi all along.
Oh, of course.
Of course, every Met fan probably did. Because that's a manager. That's someone who, that's someone you have manage a team when you know that team has the capabilities of going to the playoffs, which I think they did. You had Stroman opt out of the season.
Mm-hmm. Noah Syndergaard got Tommy John.
Yeah, Syndergaard was hurt, so the pitching was really rough, man. The pitching after DeGrom was brutal.
Mm-hmm.
The bullpen got a little better this year, but it wasn't enough. The lineup was good. They were hitting the ball well.
Cespedes opted out as well.
And that's another. It's time. I think the new ownership. I think it's time for like a refresher in that franchise. A change of culture. And that'll be interesting. I thought it was interesting that they kept Wilpon around. Not Wilpon. Alderson, Sandy Alderson.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what Steve's doing.
Right, that's what Steve Cohen said he was going to keep Sandy around. That's interesting. I never disliked Sandy. I always liked him, actually. So I think we'll see who he brings in underneath him. But the most important part of this whole thing is Steve Cohen is going to come in and he's going to put money into the baseball operations department. And that's, look at the Rays right now. Look at the Rays right now.